How much is a mother's love worth? For 67-year-old Clara, the price was $75,000 of her life savings. But what happens when that love isn't enough to buy you an invitation to your own daughter's party? This is the story of how a mother's ultimate sacrifice led to the ultimate betrayal.
In the quiet town of Willow Creek, Ohio, where maple trees lined Main Street and the scent of fresh coffee drifted from corner shops, 67-year-old Clara Thompson lived a life of quiet sacrifice. A widow since her husband Tom passed from a heart attack 10 years ago, Clara had poured her heart and $75,000 of her retirement savings into her daughter Megan and son-in-law Derek's dream, a trendy coffee shop called Brew and Bloom. From covering rent and buying industrial espresso machines to funding Instagram ad campaigns, Clara's generosity kept their dream afloat while she lived frugally in her modest two-bedroom home, eating oatmeal dinners to stretch her pension. Megan, 34, with her bright smile and knack for social media, had always been Clara's pride. Derek, 36, a charming but perpetually optimistic entrepreneur, promised the shop would put Willow Creek on the map. Clara believed in them, dipping into the nest egg Tom left her, thinking it would secure her daughter's future and keep their bond tight. For a fleeting moment, a quiet whisper of doubt crossed her mind. Was she giving away too much of the future Tom had wanted for her? But she quickly silenced it. Seeing Megan's happy face was worth any price. She imagined herself at the counter one day, sipping a latte, surrounded by the hum of customers and her daughter's gratitude. When Brew and Bloom finally turned a profit after a decade of struggle, Clara's heart swelled with hope. Megan texted her, "Mom, big news! Grand opening party this Saturday." She spent days preparing, buying a $150 navy dress, practicing her proud mother smile, and even baking her famous lemon bars for the event. She pictured herself toasting to their success, her sacrifices finally acknowledged. Saturday arrived, and Clara drove to the shop, her lemon bars carefully packed. The parking lot was packed, fairy lights twinkled, and laughter spilled out. But when she approached the door, a young employee she didn't recognize stopped her. "Ma'am, this is a private event. Are you on the list?" Confused, Clara gave her name, only to be told, "Sorry, you're not here." Her stomach dropped. She called Megan, but it went to voicemail. Peering through the window, she saw Derek's parents, siblings, and a crowd of local influencers clinking glasses. Megan, radiant in a floral dress, was posing for photos. Without Clara, devastated, Clara drove home, the lemon bars untouched. That night, she scrolled through Instagram and saw the truth. Megan had posted a reel, captioned, "Celebrating with our VIPs, #Brew and Bloom." Derek's family beamed in every frame, but Clara was nowhere. She texted Megan, "Why wasn't I invited?" The reply came hours later. "Mom, it was a vibe thing. You're too traditional for this crowd. We'll do something small with you later." The words cut deeper than any knife. Too traditional. Clara, who had paid for the very espresso machines brewing their success, wasn't vibe enough. Sleep wouldn't come for Clara that night. Inside the quiet walls of her modest home, a silent war was raging. A battle between her maternal instinct and her shattered self-worth. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at a framed photograph of her late husband, Tom. Her first impulse was to forgive, to let it all go. Megan was her daughter, after all. Memories flooded her mind, teaching Megan to ride a bike, the feeling of her small arms wrapped around her neck after a scraped knee. For a fleeting moment, the memories brought a familiar warmth to her chest. But just as quickly, Megan's cruel words, "a vibe thing," extinguished that warmth like a cold draft. Gazing at Tom's photo, she whispered, "Our savings, Tom. The money you left for me, for our future. I poured it into their dream, thinking it would bring our family closer." It dawned on her then that she hadn't just been funding a coffee shop. She had been paying to make herself invisible. Every dollar she transferred was an installment payment on her own erasure. She felt like she was being torn in two. On one side was that unconditional mother's love,
whispering, "She's young. She didn't understand. Just give her another chance." But on the other was a harsh, awakening realization. The love and respect she craved couldn't be bought. She knew that if she didn't do something now, she wouldn't just lose her money, she would lose what was left of herself. As the first light of dawn filtered through the blinds, her hesitation dissolved. The anguish of the long night hardened into a cold, clear resolve. She would no longer be a supporting character in someone else's story. The betrayal crystallized when Derek called, casual as ever, asking for $2,000 to cover a late vendor payment. Clara felt a familiar pang of guilt, the old instinct to just say yes and keep the peace. But then she remembered the cold silence of her home the night before, the feeling of being erased. Her voice, though it shook slightly, was laced with the steel of her newfound resolve as she said, "No more, Derek. I'm done."
Clara hung up and drove to Willow Creek Bank. Mr. Larson, the manager who'd processed her transfers for years, looked concerned as she canceled the automatic payments. "Clara, you sure? You've been so generous." She nodded, her jaw tight. Too generous, maybe. That night, she sat at her kitchen table, her late husband's photo, watching her. "Tom, I've been a fool," she whispered, tears falling. But something else stirred. Anger? Resolve. A spark she hadn't felt in years. The fallout was swift. Megan and Derek showed up at her doorstep, all smiles, with a cheap bouquet. "Mom, let's talk," Megan said, but her eyes darted nervously. They sat on Clara's couch, the one she'd bought with her own money, and Derek launched into a rehearsed speech. "We're worried about you, Clara. You're acting erratic, cutting us off like this. Maybe you're not thinking straight." Clara listened, but their words felt distant, like buzzing flies. The woman they were describing, confused, erratic, emotional, was the woman she had been just days ago. But the battle she had fought in the silence of her kitchen had forged someone new. She wasn't their victim anymore. Her blood boiled. "Not thinking straight? I paid for your shop, your life, and you couldn't even invite me to your party?" Megan's face hardened. "It was curated, Mom. We needed influencers, not, older folks." The next week, Clara heard whispers in town. Derek had told the local barista crowd that Clara was losing it, hinting at dementia. Then came a letter from a lawyer, Mr. Caldwell, requesting a meeting to discuss a conservatorship for Clara's well-being. Panic gripped her, but so did determination. She wasn't the frail old woman they painted her as. She called the library, where her friend Ellen, a 60-year-old librarian with a sharp mind, had seen Clara's meticulous budgeting firsthand. "Clara, you need a lawyer," Ellen urged. "I know someone. Enter Miss Abigail Reed, a 45-year-old elder law attorney with a reputation for dismantling exploitative schemes." In Abigail's office, Clara laid out everything. Bank statements showing $75,000 in transfers, screenshots of Megan's dismissive texts, and the Instagram reel that broke her heart. Abigail's eyes narrowed. "This is textbook elder financial abuse. We'll bury them with evidence." Clara also underwent a cognitive evaluation with Dr. Patel, a neuropsychologist who confirmed her mental sharpness. Her memory and reasoning scored in the top percentile for her age. Meanwhile, Megan and Derek escalated their campaign. They filed for conservatorship, claiming Clara's sudden financial cutoff and paranoid behavior, like installing a $500 security system after they kept dropping by unannounced, proved she was unfit. They even convinced a neighbor, Mr. Grayson, to sign a statement saying Clara seemed confused because she'd once forgotten his dog's name. Clara, with Abigail's guidance, gathered her own witnesses. Ellen, who'd seen Clara lead book club discussions with clarity. Mr. Larson, who vouched for her financial competence. And Dr. Patel's report, which was ironclad. The court date arrived in the old Willow Creek Courthouse, a brick building where Clara once voted for town council. Megan and Derek sat across the room,
avoiding her gaze. Their lawyer, Caldwell, painted Clara as a lonely widow manipulated by new friends like Ellen. He presented Mr. Grayson's flimsy statement and a forged receipt suggesting Clara had missed utility payments. She hadn't. Abigail dismantled their case with precision. She showed the judge, Honorable Margaret Klein, known for her nonsense rulings, Clara's meticulous financial records, the Instagram reel proving her exclusion, and Dr. Patel's evaluation. Ellen testified about Clara's sharp mind, recounting how Clara had organized a fundraiser for the library, raising $3,000 in a week. When Clara took the stand, her voice was steady. "I gave them $75,000 because I loved them. I thought it would make us closer. But they used me, then tossed me aside when I wasn't vibe enough for their party. I stopped the money because I deserve respect, not just as a mother, but as a person." The courtroom was silent. Megan's eyes welled up, but Clara saw no remorse, only frustration. Judge Klein deliberated for an hour before ruling. Mrs. Thompson is not only competent, but has shown remarkable clarity in protecting her interests. The plaintiff's claims are baseless and appear motivated by financial gain. Case dismissed. Clara exhaled, tears of relief mixed with triumphant. Abigail squeezed her hand. "You did it." Outside, Megan approached, her voice low. "Mom, we can still fix this. Let's talk." Clara looked at her daughter and saw not just the woman who betrayed her, but also the ghost of the mother she used to be, one who would have caved in, desperate for a scrap of affection. But that ghost was gone. The war inside her was over, and peace had won. "Megan, you made your choice. Now I'm making mine." She walked away, feeling lighter than she had in years. Clara didn't stop there. She sold her old house, pocketing $200,000, and moved to a cozy apartment near the library. With $50,000 of her remaining savings, she started the Willow Creek Book Club, a community hub where she taught literacy classes and hosted author talks. Ellen became her co-founder, and soon the club drew dozens of locals, young and old. Clara's days filled with laughter, debates over novels, and new friendships with people who valued her for her wit, not her wallet. Megan and Derek's shop struggled without her support. They downsized to a smaller location, and Derek took a second job. Clara heard through town gossip that they blamed her, but she no longer cared. She'd reclaimed her life. One evening, sitting in her new apartment with a cup of tea, Clara opened a notebook and began planning a trip to Paris, a dream she'd shelved for years to fund Megan's ambitions. As she sketched out her itinerary, she smiled at a photo of Tom on the table. "I'm back, love." For the first time in a decade, Clara Thompson was the matriarch of her own story, unseen at last.